Hello and welcome back to the Who podcast. This month, we're going to be doing something very special, well, as special as always, and we're going to be talking about Doctor Who spin-offs today, those that do not exist, those that do exist, and that, should come back, and everything in between, I suppose. God knows where this is going to go. I imagine everywhere. But this month, I am joined by Ashton, who's previously been on the podcast exactly a year ago. Well, no, it was last May, so a year, 12 months, 13 months ago, since you were last on, and we talked about streaming services, but obviously your phone was struggling.
Oh, it was horrendous. It was horrific, and I've still got the same phone, but we move.
You've definitely got a stronger connection. You might need to excuse a bit of like harsher noise coming from your side, from your voice.
Yeah,
you can say that's
just
a
big problem. I do apologise. Yeah,
if enough people listen, which maybe one day they will, we will be able to buy you a pair of earphones with a wire or a microphone in order to actually be able to hear. Speak properly. That is the dream. Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like because you didn't really get your chance last time to sort of I suppose introduce yourself, but obviously because you're not like I hate the term, but YouTuber. I thought it'd be cool for you to answer a few of my questions one question on Doctor Who, to give people an idea of who you are, and that is, what are your opinions on the Timeless Children?
How PG is this show?
You can swear if you want, but
that's the fucking shit.
Wow, that was muffled, but I still made it out.
Right, so I hated.
You hate it. Have you watched it recently?
No, because I do not want to punish myself.
I think I've watched it about 4 or 5 times. Just that episode.
Through that?
Well, I think it was a case of. So I did a video about this, but I talked about how there is a lot of stuff that could go right within the Timeless Children, but then at the same time, it's bogged down with so much crap, like uninteresting scenes and all that kind of stuff. Like, because each time that I've watched it, I've gone from liking it to hating it, and that's because I've picked up on different aspects. Like, first time I watched it, I liked, the epic scale of it. And I thought that was quite cool. But then the second time, I was like, cool. Do you know what? The way they displayed this arc was awful. Like, they literally have scenes where the Master tells the Doctor what's going on. It's a really lazy way to do something. And then each time that I've watched it, I've discovered something that I do or do not like. And then that's changed my opinion on it. Last time I watched it, I did like it, but you just hate everything.
The main thing was the arc that it turned out the Doctor's not a Time Lord. She's from somewhere else. It's like, that just completely ruined it for me.
I mean, that is definitely the worst bit for me as well. Like, the fact that it's left so open as well, I think is worse than. It's not like they've destroyed everything.
Yeah.
They've destroyed everything, but they haven't set an end date for when they're gonna end it. Yeah, they've begun to burn down your house, but I suppose it's still intact. It's a bit like that. And
one positive I have was the ending of her getting imprisoned. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be quite cool. The Doctor's now in prison, and then in the New Year special, she was out of prison within about 5 minutes.
I think someone did work it out that she's in prison for 3 minutes of screen time or something like that. 4 minutes maybe. I don't want to get it wrong, but I think it's under 10 minutes that she's in the prison for, in terms of actual scenes. Then it would beg the question, what is the point of putting her in there anyway? Because if you're going to get her out, because everyone who talked about it was like, it'd be a great time to get the companions and everyone to kind of do something that they wouldn't normally, because the Doctor always takes those roles. So they could switch the roles of all the companions, maybe have Jack as a kind of like a go-between, and job done. Like, you can easily write an episode of that, but no, we'll bring the Doctor back in the first 10 minutes.
It's like I thought that one of the big things with what everyone was saying was Jack was going to band with the companions, and the episode was going to be them lot all coming together to break her out, but they just did not go with that, and it was the most boring thing ever.
I mean, I think the visuals were really good within it, though.
Genuine.
Like, I think that the episode looked good, and like the idea of it was good, but the execution, I think, like a lot of Series 12 and 11 has been a bit weak.
The show has been going downhill ever since Chibnall and Jodie came in.
Yes, yeah, I think that even somebody like me who actually is going to watch it and doesn't sort of sugarcoat what he thinks, but at the same time doesn't sit there and just scream that I hate it. I definitely am not the biggest fan of this whole thing, but neither are many people. But I think that there is a lot of people that I've seen that do, like, you know, little kids dressed up as the Doctor, great. But for me, there's elements that I don't like. And
it's like I've always thought Doctor Who should be for older people.
You thought it was for older people?
Just because I feel like it would.
Make it a little bit more. It's dark in it, but it's for kids.
A bit more Torchwood vibes, but not to that extent.
That would be
Torchwood was
nice.
Like opposite side.
Like, there's a lot of stuff that can be done within the whole bracket of family friendly, isn't there? You can go quite dark without being dark, and most of it would be up to interpretation, I suppose. You know, like Cyberman.
Exactly.
You know, a lot of that is up to interpretation instead of just blatantly showing you it happen.
Like, the whole point of them is like killing a human and like turning them into metal. I would like to see that process instead of just hearing a scream and then the person's metal.
You want to see people get horribly converted.
Yeah,
yes,
cool.
Yes, you do.
Who wouldn't? Am I right?
I think the most graphic we've had is Torchwood, that episode of Torchwood that we don't like because of how it uses that Cyberwoman character. I don't know if you've seen the episode.
Oh,
do you remember Cyberwoman?
I've seen the first 10 minutes of the first episode, and I've not seen any more. But I've heard about this Cyberwoman.
Yes.
And,
Cyber bra, and you know, cyber pants.
Not good. Not good.
No. So yeah, that at the same time, I like the episode for that sort of aspect of we can do proper conversion now, because there is somebody who does get like half converted, and then, you know, he's laying on the floor and he's got like an eye replaced with a metal one, and then there's something sticking out of his head. That's quite cool. And there's an awful lot of blood and kind of that body horror within that story, but at the same time, cyber bra, you know, is the issue.
You can't know from it. It's always there.
I know, and it's when it's the costume of the villain and the only villain in quite a closed episode, it's very difficult not to keep thinking, oh god, that's crap, you know. So I suppose that with that, I think we can move on to what we're actually talking about today. And we're going to be talking about Doctor Who. Pardon?
I think that was a good idea.
Yeah. So we're
going to talk about the topic.
Yeah. See, smooth transitions. That's what we're about. Smooth transitions. And this isn't one, but at the same time, we're going to be talking about Doctor Who spin-offs, those that do exist, and bringing them back, and those that don't exist and that we would like to see happen. And I think we should go with some of the obvious ones first, to be honest, which is obviously Unit and Torchwood, because they kind of fall into the similar bracket.
Yeah.
And like you said, like only a minute ago, you'd like to see a darker version of Doctor Who, wouldn't you? I suppose you can get that
I'd
with
love to.
Torchwood, which is why I'm surprised you haven't seen it, because of that darkness that you apparently like.
It's the same with a lot of things. I don't get round to watching things. Like I said, like a year ago, I was going to start watching Peaky Blinders, and I've watched the first 5 minutes.
Right, yeah. I've said for a year that I would watch it, but haven't. And then I'm like, oh, I'll wait to the final the final series, and then it's got closer and closer, and I don't know when it's starting, but I definitely will not get round to it. I know that for sure. But with Torchwood, obviously, Torchwood could have many appearances, I suppose, and so can Unit. You know, you have like SAS, you know, Torchwood. You could have, you know, different departments, I suppose. All of that could be quite interesting. I wouldn't do all of them at once because they'd be very similar shows. Like, you know, Torchwood Special Ops and Torchwood, or Unit Special Ops and Unit Regular would be very, very different. Very much the same. So I suppose that probably wouldn't be the best idea to have all of them shows being made. But the idea of bringing Unit back has already been done, really, with Big Finish, who have done audios for a lot of stuff now. I don't know if have you heard of anything Big Finish? You might have seen it on like Facebook or whatever with their page.
I see it on your channel with videos about Big Finish, and I have no idea what it is.
Okay, right. It's a quick collision course.
I don't know anything
about. So basically, many years ago, I think it was about 20, 21 years ago, they started making Doctor Who audios while Doctor Who was not on the air. And then when the show came back in 2005, they just carried on making them with the classic Doctors. So there's lots of Sixth Doctor and Eighth Doctor and all that kind of stuff. But then it developed again into a format that they kind of have now, where they got the license to New Who and were able to do 10th Doctor adventures, Unit, like new Unit stuff with Ingrid Oliver and Gemma Redgrave, and you know, with Derek Jacobi's got his own series. John Hurt had his own series before he passed on. You know, there's a lot of things that have been done thanks to Big Finish. You know, they've let's see if I can reach over. This is not the best transition in the world, but it'll work. This is probably the most recent thing that's come out that just arrived yesterday. Okay. And their Ninth Doctor adventures, all new, with Christopher Eccleston.
Very underrated Doctor.
Very much so. But now it can all change, Ashton. It can all change. The Ninth Doctor can have audio, can have adventures again with these.
I'll get in. I have wanted that for so long.
You see, then that was last week, right? This came out last week, and I was very excited when I was able to listen to it. Well, yeah,
I would love to know how much you have spent on it.
What? Okay, right. Okay, I try not to spend too much, but I buy bundles, okay, because they are one of the cheapest way to buy things. And for Ravagers and the whole Ninth Doctor adventures spanning till next February, about £90. For all four that are coming out. But you know, some people have bought the vinyls, which are like £35 each. So that's like it's nearing £200.
Wow.
You know, but
I wish I could.
They are very well produced and everything. I do give them to Will to listen to as well. So it's not just like I hog them. I do give them to like my friends. Shayla has been asking when it was first announced 9 months ago. She messaged me and asked if, because she knew I'd either have bought them or will be buying them, to basically give her the CDs or whatever, to lend her them, to kind of be able to listen to them herself. which I haven't done yet because I'm hogging them, and it only just arrived yesterday. But Big Finish now have that license to do Ninth Doctor stuff, as well as all the other Doctors, and eventually, I'm sure Peter Capaldi and Matt Smith, etc., will join, and we will have an awful lot of Doctor Who stuff, even when the show's not on air. You know, these guys bring out like at least 2 big releases a month. So, I mean, you're never quite bored. So I've been very happy. Yeah, I mean, somebody told me recently, or I saw it somewhere, that they have like 5 years worth of Tom Baker. He's been recording so much that if we lose him, he will continue to be the Doctor for like 5 more years.
He's probably the best Doctor, I would say.
Very much so. He's a very popular Doctor.
But I stand by him.
It's not controversial. If you said 13 was your favourite, that is considered controversial.
Yeah, he is.
But the 4th Doctor is definitely one of the most popular Doctors, isn't he? Between everything.
I will say my controversial take is that Peter Capaldi's good. Because a lot of people don't like Capaldi's Doctor.
That's changed recently, I've noticed, that people have liked Capaldi more and more. In recent history.
Very good.
You know, the Doctor Falls and Ward Enough in Time are considered, you know, the best of his run, I suppose.
I think the best was Heaven Sent. Heaven Sent might be the best episode of Doctor Who I've ever seen.
Really? I mean, it is very good, very clever.
Yeah.
I literally said that. I'm not quite sure what you said there, but it did sound like you were swearing. Maybe it's ketchup.
I just said that it's one of my top episodes.
Top episodes. Definitely.
You can always rely on me for the best quality.
The best critique you could get from any episode ever would be for Ashton just to say, best episode. I really like that one. Just send in a monotone voice. That would be hilarious.
Anyway, spin-off.
What did you say?
Spin-off.
Spin-offs, yes. I thought you were trying to say Big Finish, but said it wrong. Yes. But yes, but with Unit and that kind of stuff, they are currently making Unit. There's a new series coming out in November. Not a Big Finish one. So I suppose that's kind of covered it. And the ones that I've listened to, which is just Cyber Reality, was really good. And definitely, if they did it on film or on TV or whatever, if they did it on the same thing, they're the same thing, like they film on TV now, really. If they did that, then I think that the budget of them would be so restricted that they really wouldn't get stories like Cyber Reality. Because this Cyber Reality thing is like full of Cybermen everywhere and all that sort of stuff. It's big. Like, it was big. And very epic. So at the end of the day, I suppose Unit will definitely come eventually into Chris Chibnall's era, surely. Because I mean, I'm pretty sure surely, do you know that resolution joke when they're like, yeah, we've closed it due to budget restraints.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you've got rid of, you know, an army. The perfect thing that could be used to just be the scale of cannon fodder, if not anything else. And you've got rid of it. A lot could be done with Torchwood, because people love, with the Unit and Torchwood, because the people love, you know, big ensemble casts taking on whatever. That's why, you know, that's why Torchwood was so popular in the end. And with it's a very popular thing that you can easily replicate. Like, fans all over the world have made their own things with their own Unit teams, their own Torchwood teams, etc. Like, it really didn't matter what they were doing with it, with the property, but they're having a great time making things that they like to do, and with the basic premise like that, it could just go anywhere for them, which I think was a really probably unintentional genius of that episode of that show.
Yeah.
Do you have one? Because I've obviously mentioned the obvious ones. Do you want to? If you got any ideas
What
of a spin-off of your own?
series I want to do that? Oh, spin-off of my own?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, as you came to me this week, I've been coming up with some, and I think I've got a good couple. One of them, I think my favourite one, is Rose's journey back to our universe. Obviously, because she got locked away in that parallel universe, and then all we heard was, "Oh, me and my dad made a thing," and they were back. I would love to see a series of them doing adventures while also slowly working out how to come back to that other universe. That is something I've always wanted to see.
I'm getting a feeling it does exist. Actually, I think there is a box set with Rose and her dad. It's called the Dimension Canon or something. I haven't listened to it, but there is one, I'm pretty sure. But that is a very good idea for a show.
Well,
but
that never happened. I never said that.
I mean, well, what do you mean you never said that? It was never made. Like, so you just said that your spin-off idea already exists. You probably maybe you saw it on like Facebook.
That's what I come with some brilliant idea.
Yeah, you thought you made
no, it just came to my head.
You were going to pitch it to the BBC and then realised it was real.
And then when we sent the message on Snapchat saying come with ideas, I was on the journey's end, which is where she brings it up, and I was like, oh my god, hang on, Rose comes back. I would love this to be a series. So
you were watching Doctor Who when I messaged you.
They're absolutely... I feel heartbroken.
Heartbroken? You destroyed. Wow, I don't know what to say to you.
Can't believe the idea is already in the universe. That's pure.
It's a good idea though, isn't it? Like I've never listened to it. It might not be what you're saying. It might be something else. But it's called the Dimension Canon, and canons fire people into different things. So I suppose that it would make sense for it to be sending them back to our Earth. Have you got any others? Because the first one sucks because it already existed.
I have a feeling that all of these are going to be in existence.
What's your next one?
Right, my next one, because this is one of my favourite episodes.
Yes.
Do you remember A Town Called Mercy?
I do, yes, from Series 7.
With the cowboy bounty hunter. Yeah. I would love to see a series about that bounty hunter.
Oh yeah, I can see
down
that.
All the different people he has to kill.
Yeah.
I would love that.
You could do it like a kind of gothic noir kind of western, couldn't you? Like think like Mandalorian and Sin City mixed together.
Yeah.
Like that would be very cool actually. That would be quite cool. It's although
murdering all them dogs. Oh god.
Although
it's already in existence, isn't it?
That's the plot of quite a few films already. Is because wasn't this robot? No, I haven't seen a Town Called Mercy in a long time. But wasn't that robot made by the doctors, and then the robot seeked its revenge on them? So it was the plot of like Deadpool and other films.
Yeah.
And of course,
that's probably the plot of Terminator as well.
It's RoboCop.
But no one cares about RoboCop.
It is RoboCop.
No one cares about RoboCop. I don't care. This guy would be.
It would be very cool.
RoboCop.
It'd be Western RoboCop
He's a bounty hunting cowboy with a metal arm gun. That's so much cooler than I like Mr. I ride on a motorcycle and wear the stupid looking glasses.
And entered a few too many sequels that probably weren't a good idea. Like Dark Fate.
100%. That's what happens with most things. They make too many sequels. AKA Halloween.
Mm-hmm. Or Pirates of the Caribbean. Too many.
Yes. There was no need for number 3 or 4.
Well, I think they needed 3, but I think 4 was probably the limit. Like 4 was like, let's carry on. Why? And 4 was a bit naff.
Like, the first 3 did well. Let's just do it. And it's like, no, you don't need to make more, Disney. You only need the first 3.
Mm-hmm. And imagine how that's a lot of money made from like this idea that one person had that let's turn that ride into a film. You know?
Yeah.
But
a lot of money.
Back to RoboCop and Western RoboCop, as I'm going to call it. Yeah, but that is quite a cool idea. I would love to see not just that side of the story, like the whole Doctor killing spree, but also, because that is just like a basic revenge story, isn't it? But also the kind of political, I suppose. It's going to sound boring, but the political system left when it would probably work better as like an animation, I suppose, than live action. But a kind of a Western town defended by a robot cyborg sheriff is quite a cool idea.
I would love that.
For an
that was incredible.
Yeah, for like any show or probably even anime would that might be an anime. I don't know, but that does sound like a very cool idea.
Yeah,
for someone to do.
Yeah. Have you got any that you want to create?
Yes. Probably the most creative I've got. This is probably the smartest that I've come up with through my entire thing. And I've just been looking down and trying to get my notes open to remember it. So we've had stories recently featuring a lot of Gallifrey, haven't we? And the whole mythos behind it. What about a Gallifrey anthology series?
Oh, that would be very good.
And,
that would be good.
Well, I mean, it kind of does exist with this sort of Gallifrey. Like they did a series called Gallifrey. Big Finish did, but with this, think of it
very intriguing title there. I'm sure it took him a while to come up with that title.
What, the title for that box set series? Gallifrey. Yeah, it didn't take him very long at all. But apparently it's quite good. It's not really a series that I jumped to be interested in. But at the same time, I quite like the idea of a kind of political thriller set on any alien planet, to be honest. Because a lot of classic Who do try to do the kind of like thriller, political thriller kind of thing. And I think that it would make sense within this continuity to do a Time Lord political thriller with, you could do you could do multiple series, and you probably wouldn't even need to touch the Time War with that. You could, like, the final series could be like Game of Thrones, and you could do a whole sort of thing about the Time War beginning and the end of Gallifrey and all that kind of stuff. I thought that would be quite a cool show, but
that would be amazing.
At the same time, it would be very expensive. I don't know if you. Because you would need a lot of CGI places, and if you want to really sell the idea that it's an alien planet, even if it's one familiar to us, it would take a lot of money to have, even the Citadel made for a show. So I'm not quite sure whether that's really going to be beneficial for the show, like for any show. And obviously, if it gets cancelled, you've got a real issue where you really didn't touch the Time War,
Yeah. That's the only problem.
Like, think of it if like Game of Thrones got cancelled like halfway through. You know, it just would be much worse than what we actually got. So
Yeah.
I suppose that would be an issue.
I've not seen Game of Thrones, but I know the whole hassle about the final season.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And apparently it's a horrific season.
well, I don't think it was
Apparently,
particularly awful, but there was some there was some logical flaws. But there was an Inside Number 9 episode. I don't know if you watch it. Did you watch Inside Number 9?
Never seen it.
Okay, well,
No.
they're like, imagine like short stories that tend to be quite dark, blood and swearing, but also quite funny. And they're very much a British sense of humour. So they can be puns and things. And with this... Pardon?
Best sense of humour. British do have the best.
Yes. Well, they have definitely... British people do tend to have more of a sophisticated sense of humour. Like, if you look at, like, the offices, like the UK office and the US office, this is going a bit off topic, but the UK office was very much about modern, like, just regular life and the humour from just little things, like the way that David Brent would... You know, we all know someone that's very much like David Brent, like that's kind of far too happy, thinks he's it when he isn't. All that kind of stuff all kind of relate to someone, which I think means that I don't want to say British comedy's deeper, but I suppose it is in that respect, is that there's a lot more layers. It's layered. But American comedy, like the US office, is a lot more like quick, sort of either quick joke that tend to be quite loud and abrupt. Some, but I wouldn't call that jokes exactly funny. Like, I can't think of an example. But then there are jokes within American comedies that are very funny because they're very quotable, but they make a real connection with the audience that you probably wouldn't get otherwise, because they play on something, which is smart, or of course they're just abrupt and they shout something. You know, like Stephen Carell dancing around.
American and British, I always look at the in-betweeners, because the British in-betweeners is brilliant, whereas the American in-betweeners is probably the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yes, I've heard about the American in-betweeners. It's all to do with what they're allowed to show on TV and stuff like that. But I don't know whether... but obviously, you know, we were allowed to say... Well, we're not allowed to say, but the TV is allowed to say a lot more graphic words. And we have this real thing about sex as well. Like... We love sticking sex jokes in our shows.
Oh, we do. They will stick a sex joke.
But I mean, ours are like crude in some shows. And sometimes shows' popularity are due to it being crude. Like, there was a show recently called Frank of Ireland. I don't know if you watched it, but it's an Irish show. And they were like, it's as rude as Peep Show. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not rude as Peep Show. In fact, Peep Show wasn't always rude. It was just quite intrusive because it was through the point of view, which means that when you had a scene that was a bit in there, it was in there because you were the person. But Peep Show is a brilliant comedy. Anyway, I've got distracted quite substantially, and now we're talking about Peep Show.
We keep going off the track.
But... what was I talking about? Was I planning on making a Torchwood a Time Lord comedy series then? You know, a day at the life of the Citadel? God,
that would be banging.
That load of rubbish. Just people in offices. Oh, look, what's that Dalek? And then we all get exterminated at the end. You know, it would be a very weird series. But I thought that maybe Chibnall might be more interested in the idea of a Gallifrey series if it focused on something that he did, and there's a lot of mentions of the division, which I'm sure will pop up
Yeah.
over the next couple of years in the show. A kind of we don't know much about it, but I'm imagining it's like a dark version of the Time Lord, Gallifrey, like SAS kind of, like the Shady Company and like shows like Prison Break with generic names, that kind of stuff. And I thought a division show would be quite cool, watching it kind of suppress the members
that would be
of
cool.
Gallifrey, the citizens of Gallifrey, and kind of you could get the political intrigue and the thriller from it as well, because you could see the division kind of do what they must to keep going. It's like a cult within the system. So I thought that would be a very cool idea and would definitely relate to more of what Chibnall does with the show, because I think Doctor Who definitely has a tendency to be very nostalgic, like a lot.
Yes, it can rely on being nostalgic.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we don't rely on it. I mean, if you look at Big Finish, right? You got 10th Doctor, Daleks, like Daleks at the minute, all over the place. People talk about this all the time, that there are Daleks everywhere currently with Big Finish. So much so that people are getting bored of Daleks. Time Lord Victorious had Daleks everywhere. It was all over the place. Dalek story. How many Dalek stories can you tell?
Yeah, you can't tell more. It's like one thing I have is like, since New Who started, it's like everyone's gone, oh, we have to have a Dalek episode in every season. It's like, no, you don't.
They do.
It's like,
legally, there's apparently something with Terry Nation where they must have a Dalek in each series.
What?
Yeah, I don't know whether it's true. I believe it's true, but because I've heard it quite often.
Surely.
But if you look at a lot of New Who, there is at least one Dalek in each series. So they're in series 5.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
And then they appear once in series 6. Series 7 they're in. Series 8 they're in. Series 9 they're in. Series 10 they're in. Right at the start of the pilot. At the end of the pilot, they're in series 10. Bill Potts and Capaldi. And then you have series 11, which they're in the special, and then you have series 12, which they're in the special.
Yeah.
So that is every series has Daleks.
I've only ever enjoyed 2 Dalek stories, and that was Eccleston's, where it's just that singular Dalek, which I thought was incredible.
From the episode Dalek, not the finale at the end of the series.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Dalek episode.
Yeah.
That was just incredible. Just the one taken out of that whole base.
Yeah.
And then my favourite one is when they steal all the planets. So the Soul on Earth and Journey's End, 2-parter.
Series 4.
That's a brilliant Dalek story.
Yep. Very much so.
Yeah, but I haven't seen many other Dalek episodes that have intrigued me.
Yes. I mean, I got a bit of a partial spot for Assignment with the Daleks. There's no real reason for it to exist. I'll probably talk about it at some point. But
that one annoys me. That annoys me because why do the Daleks need the Doctor? They hate him, so why would they go to him?
Why do they have an asylum?
They're
a purist race.
Yeah.
Why don't they just kill everything that isn't like them? It would make sense.
That would make sense.
For the Cybermen, it would make sense for them to have a kind of deficient Bad Batch scenario planet where they keep all the ones that don't work.
That would make sense for the Daleks.
But yeah, Daleks not really.
It's like the basis for the Daleks, which I think most people know as what they were, the Nazis, obviously.
Yeah.
What they did. So sure, the Daleks should follow that. Because I have heard a lot of people say the basis for Daleks are them, which I think is very interesting.
Wait.
I personally don't agree with that.
The basis of the Daleks. So the Nazis copied the Daleks, yet the Nazis were 20 years before.
No, the Daleks are based off of the Nazis, apparently.
They must be. I mean, have you seen Genesis of the Daleks? The Tom Baker story?
No, I haven't seen any of old Who.
Classic. Well, yeah, that they in that story, a lot of the human equivalents of what later become Daleks, the Khaleds, I think they're called. They are basically Daleks. They're basically Nazis. Like everything about them is
Oh, right,
they're
okay.
Nazis. Like there's no other way of saying it. They are just Nazis. And I've just realized I've said Nazis 3 times. Hopefully this video doesn't get screwed over, but because I've just said Nazi 3 times in a row.
No money coming. Yeah,
They don't get paid anyway.
it's gone too far now. Oh,
Yeah, but the
where
idea,
were we?
something about, but this could easily transition into my next idea, which I have actually written down, I swear, was Daleks.
Okay.
Now, they're obsessed with Daleks, properly obsessed.
Yeah.
And there was kind of a Dalek series recently. But that linked into Timelords Victorious. I don't know if you saw it. It kind of went under the radar a bit. But it was on the YouTube channels and stuff, but they never broadcasted it on TV or advertised it on TV.
Right, okay.
So none of that really happened. It was just like this thing that they had on Twitter, and they're like, "There's an episode of this, and it's available on YouTube. You should watch it." And they were like 10 minutes, and there were 5 of them, so it's about an hour of animated Dalek stories. They were all right. I mean, they weren't awful. The animation was a bit clunky, but you know, they were quite enjoyable. And I think that something like that, but given more money and more time, would be a very cool thing. Because you know, from shows like Clone Wars and the kind of Star Wars universe, you know that animation isn't just like a kid show anymore. It's not just something you put on Cartoon Network. It really could be the next phenomenon.
Like Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Like Rick and Morty's not for kids. That's animation.
That kind of stuff.
Probably one of my favourite TV shows.
But shows like Rick and Morty are kind of, at the same time as them being overused, because I mean, look at Netflix. There's lots of shows that kind of try and rip off the whole Rick and Morty look, and that kind of stuff. I think that with that Dalek series, that web series, had a very distinct visual style, and a lot of people complained about like the animation looked crap and all types of stuff. And I thought, yeah, it looked crap, but they were clearly trying to do something with it. And I think that if they were given money and time, they could have done something with it. But somebody probably higher up decided that they weren't going to get it. And they wanted it out. Well, I imagine they just wanted it out with the Town of Victoria stuff. So that's why it felt a bit rushed, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a shame.
It would be a pretty cool idea.
That has some basis for some very cool stories.
Yeah, not just like you could do a lot more than just have, because to me, like we just talked about, you know, the idea of them being Nazis, you could do a lot more with just them. You could have people revolting against the Daleks on planets, and you know, the Daleks squishing their revolutions and all that kind of stuff. You could have a lot going on with the Daleks, like races, striking bargains with them, attacking them. Daleks are like one of the best things that you can do with animation as well, because they don't have arms, they don't have legs, they don't really have faces.
They're little thing, arms.
Because it's very clear, like if you tried to animate my face while I was talking now, you would have to do a lot more. Like there's a little bit more to it than just moving my mouth up and down. There's cheeks and there's eyes, eyebrows, head, you know, whatever my hand's doing, all of that kind of stuff is complex to do. But with Daleks, you don't have to do any of that, which made Daleks such a brilliant idea. And I think it is a shame that they never reached the full potential that they could have done and just got demoted to being some web series. I hope they're given a second series to really flood things out with more time and more money, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I doubt it will happen.
That was a shame.
But I think we've definitely covered the whole Time War, like, time at this point. We've talked about Timelords
Yeah.
talked about Daleks. Should we talk about the Doctor and in particular, the Ruth Doctor?
Do we have to?
Well, I was just thinking,
Do we have to go there?
the Ruth Doctor is kind of cool. Like she's a badass woman, and she will fight
I was not a
the
fan.
universe by her rules. She will take out as many alien species as she wishes. It will also develop the idea of the Ruth Doctor, because I hope this doesn't happen. I hope that she gets some screen time and she's not just like a side character, because she's very interesting, and I'd love to see her birth and then her sort of adventures herself, escaping the division that we previously mentioned, but also fighting whatever aliens keep looking for her, like the Judoon or whatever. They could do bounty hunters that come after her and things like that. So I thought that would be quite cool. She's like a woman on the run.
Platform our ideas.
Yeah, woman on the run.
We could have cowboy bounty hunter.
Yeah,
hunting her down. Oh my god. There we go. Just BBC hit us up.
BBC
Mate,
hit
the
us
best
up.
TV show ever. I mean, I doubt if they'll listen to it, but if anyone from BBC's listening, contact us, and we'll write you a TV series.
Did you say
What?
Do you mean CBBC series?
No, we're going BBC.
We're not writing kids
top.
crap. We're writing high quality art, are we?
Oh, we are writing top stuff here. We ain't going for that CBC type crap.
Well,
we want like Broadchurch.
You wanna do Broadchurch?
we just got Broadchurch levels of brilliant.
Brilliant.
We've got the best TV show ever.
Okay. Well, back to the idea of CBBC. Well, not. Is that what it's still called? CBBC is shows like the Sarah Jane Adventures, which, to be honest, I think was better than Torchwood, because the episodes that they did were so good. See, people have talked about this before, so I won't go into it on too much depth. But like, it's quite possible that you could do that. The woman that plays Rani, who I can't remember her name, but she's going out with Sacha Dhawan. So, and she was in series 12. So who's to say that she wouldn't be willing to come back as Rani from the Sarah Jane Adventures? Tommy Knight could come back. Daniel Anthony, who plays Clyde, could come back. It would be very cool to get all of those people. In fact, it kind of happened with Farewell Sarah Jane, but at the same time, I suppose I probably wouldn't be. I feel like that ended the thing, and I think doing it without Elizabeth Sladen would be bad. So that's why I'm suggesting something else.
That is the problem.
Carry on.
Because I personally think Sarah Jane Adventures is top quality. That show was incredible. And I think that probably is the best Doctor Who spin-off.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were some episodes of that were a bit darker, but there were some like light-hearted episodes.
Yeah.
Like my favourite one was the clown geezer.
Dave the Clown.
Piper
Yeah.
Guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like
Bradley Walsh.
lead children to the museum.
Bradley Walsh dressed as a clown. Yep.
Oh.
That.
It was it, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Odd Bob was the name of the clown. And obviously, I'm terrified of clowns. So that was an episode I struggled to watch because I don't like clowns.
That's fair enough.
I mean, I'm okay with some of them. Like, that one's not too bad, to be honest. But the whole look, I find absolutely terrifying.
What was cool? His massive forehead.
I know that it's not that, it's the eyes and the kind of the teeth and the sort of grin that really scares me. I just have this, but
Right.
from Sarah Jane Adventures is probably the reason why I have a favorite of clowns. Let's be honest. But what I was suggesting with, instead of a Sarah Jane series, would actually be an Ace series. You don't know Ace, do you?
Oh.
Do you know Ace?
That was the call.
Kind of.
I do. I have heard of Ace. I know Ace. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean,
seventh Doctor, wasn't she?
yes, 17. So 10th Doctor companion. I think that she would make a great spin-off, and she wouldn't just be like the only companion there. You could also have an older Joe Grant, etc. Anyone that's really on Earth could be a good person to have as a companion. There's a few that you probably wouldn't have though. Like you could get Bonnie Langford and all that kind of stuff. Even though I'm pretty sure she's not on Earth or not from Earth. But I can't remember. But
companions from 1 to 8, I did not know the companion. Yeah. Except for Ace. Ace is the only companion I know of.
Susan? Is she on Earth? I don't know. Doctor's granddaughter. Susan. First Doctor companion. There's some I haven't really been exposed to.
I know her. Yes. I know.
You've got it. It's clicked. It's clicked. Yeah, but I think Ace would be a good person to choose because she will. So there's this. Do you remember Class? This is going to bring up some memories. 2016, there was a show called Class, which was a Doctor Who spin-off. It's set in Coal Hill School, but that went to Big Finish once the show was cancelled. And when it went to Big Finish, they did a story with Ace. And there's a very popular story in Classic Who called Remembrance of the Daleks, which features Ace. And the story is about a Dalek from that episode that has gone through a portal and arrived at modern-day Coal Hill School. And because of that, Ace is there to stop it. And she's basically Ace as she's always been. She's very smart. She's still very witty and kind of. I feel like I need to say. I feel like the word independent, but at the same time, I don't feel like it is. She's just very smart, and I think that should be good for the whole idea of the show. And she's also got this kind of double life, like Batman. She's got she has this sort of foundation charity thing that I've forgotten the name of. But she also has this way of stopping aliens when they arise as well. So she kind of tracks aliens and things like that. So and Ace has not actually had a box set of her own in terms of Big Finish as well. So I think that she'll be excellent.
That would actually be quite cool, yeah. I'd love to see that.
And I think Sophie Aldridge still has the qualities to play Ace as well. She hasn't changed a great deal. So I think that having her back, it's such a wasted opportunity if you think about it. When you look at sort of companions that we've had in Doctor Who in the past, and you think about, ones that could have been in Doctor Who, like, Pertwee, who never did Big Finish. Having that could be a real way to let them continue and not just introduce them to new people, but really allow us to have more time with those actors as they're they're still with us, because I think that once they're gone, they're gone, and the idea of them coming back is no longer going to happen without impressionists. Like John Corslaw Coleslaw, John Coleshaw does a great Brigadier and a great Delgado and Ainley. So it's good to see him. He can still bring them to life, but I think there's nothing like the real thing. So I think it's very important that we utilize the people that we do have that would be willing to do it, such as Sophie Aldridge, for her own show. There's a lot to be done there, and I just think Russell T Davies said that he always wanted a kind of universe with Doctor Who, with spin-offs and that kind of stuff, where there's so much going on in the world of Doctor Who that you're never really without it. Which luckily, Big Finish is kind of filling that gap. But on TV, I mean, in the general public, it'd be good to have it restored, I suppose.
Look, there is so much happening with Doctor Who in that whole world. One thing I think could be quite good is I think Torchwood kind of went this route, but like an X-Files type, just like a group within obviously that's what Torchwood did technically with hunting down aliens and something, but I just think that whole idea is very cool of people just hunting down aliens and stopping them from causing havoc.
Yeah.
Which is obviously one that's very good with Torchwood.
Yeah, I think that I would be quite happy with a lot of stuff, but at the same time, they probably wouldn't give us half the stuff we asked for. like Time Lord Victorious.
That's the problem.
I mean, it's nice to have that gap filled because it does feel weird that he goes from Planet of the Dead to Waters of Mars. My question would be, why was that even done in the first place? Why did they make the Doctor so much darker in Waters of Mars without it being foreshadowed in the next Doctor and Planet of the Dead? But they chose not to do it that way. And it's been nice to have that, but I'm currently reading the book, the second book that they did, and I'm reading it and I'm thinking, this feels less like it justifies its own existence with its story and more like it justifies its own existence with its merchandise. A kind of...
Right, yeah.
In some respects, it is a spin-off because it wasn't necessarily included in the show. So I suppose Time Lord Victorious is a spin-off. And with that, I think that there's a lot of it that I sit there and I think, why did this have to be a thing that we were told? I don't really want to spoil it, but there's an awful lot of stuff going on, with races that cause death and Daleks and multi-doctors meeting, all of that kind of stuff. And for it to go from, I think it's a bit before Waters of Mars and then Waters of Mars and then after Waters of Mars, and to think that all of this stuff happened in between those few episodes, I think is a bit mental and very corporate to me. But at the same time, I'm still quite enjoying the book, nevertheless.
Yeah. It's one of the other ideas I hear for a spin-off is, you're going to have to tell me if this is already a thing, but I would look at Master Series. Of I don't know which one, just take one of the Masters, obviously including Missy as well. And
I'd probably go with Missy.
Yeah, I think for me, either Missy or John Sim, because I think they're probably the best two variations for me. Obviously, they're along with Sasha Dewan, they're the only three that I've seen play the Master. I've not seen how good the old Masters were.
There wasn't a great deal of them, actually. There's an Alex McQueen Master you've probably never heard of. Do you know Neil's dad from The Inbetweeners?
Yeah.
He plays a Master.
Oh God.
He's very good. He's honestly very good. He's got the right amount of suave but the right amount of crazy. And it's just kind of, he's
Oh,
very posh, very like sort of controlled, but he's mental at the same time, which I quite enjoyed.
okay.
But I haven't listened to a great deal of him, to be honest. But yeah, I think he's a very good master. But yeah, I think the idea of a master series is a great idea. I think it will really. I mean, it'd be difficult with some of the stories because at the same time you can't have the master being a good guy.
No, you've got to have the bad guy.
And I don't know whether there seems to be this thing within shows and within games, like GTA games, when there was a lot of stuff about how we're not quite sure if people would want to play as the bad guy throughout the entire thing, but everyone wants to play that bad guy.
I've nothing. Yeah.
I thought I've heard about that.
The Dark Knight, I think it's a great example because a lot of people look at the Dark Knight and go, the Joker, and he's the bad guy, but everyone loves that character.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people do like bad guys. In games like Marvel, you've got Thanos and Loki. Everyone loves them too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I don't like the idea that people say, oh, people don't want to watch or play as the bad guy. Because personally, I'd prefer playing as a bad guy or watching a bad guy.
Yeah,
I think it's just a bit cool.
It's a bit more interesting, isn't it, when you have something that isn't just going to be a generic hero that wins every day, I suppose. But that's why the Doctor works quite well, because he's kind of, you're not sure sometimes whether he's the good guy or the bad guy.
Yeah, because there are some episodes of Doctor Who where you're like, hang on, maybe the Doctor can't win. Maybe they are going to lose. But then there are some which you go, oh, they're going to win. But then it's like there are some episodes where the Doctor, it's like my great example is Waters of Mars, where he returns at the end and he's kind of going on this whole tirade that he is the most powerful. And you kind of see him kind of going a bit mental, and I'm like, that's brilliant. That is what I want to see. Not like Jodie Whittaker's all goody.
Very happy, sort of quirky humour that doesn't always work, kind of thing. Yeah. So, with that Master series, it probably work, but I think that, I'm not quite sure whether the corporate higher-ups would be particularly happy with the idea of the bad guy getting a show. And I suppose at the same time, there's been this weird thing that they've had about Doctor Who's image as well, with products and everything kind of being the same in terms of logos and stuff. They really like that. And I don't see what the difference is with some of that. It's like, why have you got things changing logos when the show changes its logo? Because Doctor Who isn't your conventional show like trying to think of a conventional show for some reason. Red Dwarf, you can stick with the same logo because it doesn't change that much. I mean, it. Even when they brought it back, they didn't switch the logo out or anything. They updated it a bit, but the logo stayed the same.
All that ever changed with Red Dwarf was they added more numbers. That's the only thing they ever changed.
Like, I'm probably I'll buy it tomorrow, I reckon. But there is a box set of series 1 to 8 of Red Dwarf for like £10, and I'm planning on buying it because Netflix are about to take it off and put it on BritBox.
Oh, you've got to.
And what was interesting?
That's a travesty. Red Dwarf is probably my favourite show of all time.
Wow, and you're on a Doctor Who podcast.
Such a good.
I
don't care. Red Dwarf is so good.
And with that, with the Red Dwarf stuff, while I was looking through all the DVD covers, a lot of them are the same. Like, they look very similar, even though they're many years out. like everything about it is very much the same. And even if, you know, Doctor Who's broken up into like eras more than anything else, you know, the DVDs have, you know, like Tom Baker Doctor from 1975 to 81, that kind of stuff, instead of, and therefore the logo should follow suit. And without including that Doctor Who logo,
Yeah.
I don't know whether they'd be particularly pleased with the idea of a Master series. I know that fans would leap on
that
it.
would be a problem.
Like when you look at like Class, like just the name Class doesn't scream Doctor Who. And the Master
No.
can be quite a generic thing, but I think it's probably most iconic with Doctor Who.
A lot of people would probably hear the Master and go, "Oh, Doctor Who,"
You know,
which would be good because it's like if you go with the Master, it's not straying too far away from Doctor Who, because obviously them two are synonymous with each other.
with this Master show, what would you do in terms of story, and what would you do in terms of violence and sort of audience?
Oh, it's a very, very good question. I haven't thought that. I ain't gone that in depth. This could be. Hang on.
Because I'm seeing it as a lot of
But
time
what I'd like
meddling.
to see is, yeah, kind of like what I think Loki's going to be like.
Well,
Like
Loki
meddling
probably
with
will
time. I
be
think
Doctor
that's
Who
what
by the
could be
look of
quite
it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking like it is going to be. Marvel have gone, oh, Doctor Who, we'll do that.
It does seem very similar.
Just with 10 times budget.
But yeah, so I'd think it's like a kind of time manipulation sort of series is what I would do. You know, with something worse than the Master that the Master has to stop, but does it for his own selfish gain. You know, he does it to save his own life, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, maybe you could do, was it the Great Intelligence that wanted to kill the Doctor?
Yeah.
That like went, yeah, so what you could have is the Great Intelligence, and the Master's like, no, I'm going to stop you killing the Doctor because I want to kill the Doctor. And you could have him try to beat the Great Intelligence to then become the person to then kill the Doctor. That would be quite cool.
There was a thing that came out in January called Masterful, which was 50 years of the Master, and the idea of that show, that audio, was that the John Sim has killed Jodie Whittaker, and hit her with a planet or something. So she's dead, and the Master's finally won. And what he's done is he's gathered up himself to celebrate.
Right.
So that means that you have all of these Masters together. And obviously there's a bit more to it, you know, it's a 3-hour story. So they split up into teams, and a bigger villain is revealed. But when they were in the behind the scenes things, they talked about how they couldn't have the Master be the good guy. They had to make sure that throughout the entire thing he stayed consistent, or they stayed consistently bad.
Yeah.
Which I think would be an issue on a writing standpoint if you did any show with a bad guy.
Yeah, that would be quite hard to always keep them looking bad.
But I mean, it's not like it's not possible. I mean, look at Breaking Bad. You know, it's about people that break the law, and yet, or Prison Break. You know, you're rooting for the murderers and the robbers to escape prison or whatever, and then be on the run for a very long time.
Kind of like The Boys as well. Like, you've got people killing the superheroes, but you're rooting for them because at the same time the superheroes are also the bad guys.
Yeah, very much the bad guys. And even the bad guys in that show are not always defined as the bad guys, are they, really? Because some of the
like some of the heroes,
some of the seven
people
are not just painted out as the bad guys. Yeah. is it makes it a very
Like
interesting
Starlight,
show
she
because of
is
that, doesn't
a
it?
genuine person.
I was thinking more like Queen
Yeah,
Maeve
because you've got the conflict in both sides. Yeah,
because she's not like
constantly,
your
like when Homelander lets the plane get destroyed, she's like,
she's not like your kind of like generic maniacal I'm the bad guy. She's actually like trying to do good,
yeah,
but she's struggling due to her
yeah,
responsibilities and sort of what she's signed up to inadvertently, which I thought
yeah.
was
And
made
due to the fact she
boys.
knows Homelander is the killer.
Yeah, so she was stuck really. She had to carry on with everything that she was doing,
Yeah,
and that I think would be the best way. Like you get a good layered character with that kind of writing, I suppose, that you probably wouldn't
yeah.
get from just the good guy, winning. But we have talked a lot about the Master
No,
just being the Master, haven't we? And how we would write a Master series.
we have.
The Master can't be good, but can't be bad. Can't be too
Yeah,
bad.
it's incredible.
He can't be defeated. Um, so have you
Yeah.
got any other things that you're interested in talking about, spin-off wise? Is there any?
Um, I have got one more, and that's Eighth Doctor. However, I am guessing with Big Finish there is Eighth Doctor things out there now.
Yes, yes. It's definitely been a thing for many
Good.
years. You've got Dark Eyes, Doom Coalition. What's the other one called? Bleeding Ravagers. I feel like I've missed one. Ravagers, and you have Stranded, which is a new one, which is very interesting, because it's completely different from Doctor Who. It's about the Doctor and his companions, played by Nicola Walker and Hattie Morahan, stuck on Earth because the TARDIS is gone, damaged. So they're actually stuck on Earth throughout the entire series, and it's something I really want to buy it. In one of those big bundles.
That sounds very cool.
I think the issue with it is that the stories are a little bit unconventional. But yeah, there's a lot of Eighth Doctor stuff, and Time War. They did a Time War series as well. That was the one that was coming into my head that I couldn't think of. The Time War series is definitely something I want to pick up at some point as well, because I think the Eighth Doctor, Davros, and destroying Gallifrey, and a darker side to the Eighth Doctor would be very cool.
Yeah, because I felt very sorry for Paul McGann when he only had that one film. But it's a bit unfair that everyone else gets loads of series and he gets like a 2-hour film.
It's an hour and a half, an hour and 20. But yeah, I do think that he is making himself out to be one of my favorite Doctors through the Big Finish stuff. He's had some really well-written adventures. So I'm always quite happy for some Eighth Doctor. And I think it's even improved the film, because I think there's a lot of stuff that didn't work well with the film that they sort of fix over time, which I quite enjoyed. With the Eighth Doctor, and obviously Paul McGann is amazing. Like, just every time he's interviewed in these box sets, all of that kind of stuff, I just think he's just so happy to be there that it just makes an amazing Doctor.
I think he's a very good Doctor, completely undone by the fact he could only get that one film.
Yeah, he did only get one
If
film.
he had a full series, people would. Yeah, like if he had a full series, I think people would probably have him up there as one of the best.
People have talked about, like within the fandom, of having him have his own series.
I would love it.
See, but I think it's been done now. I think that Big Finish have kind of covered it. I think it would be redundant to do it, and you run the risk of, because you are treading over the footsteps of Big Finish, treading on top of the footsteps of Big Finish, to accidentally remove sections of Big Finish that people love, because every time a release of these comes out, people go mental. When this Ninth Doctor thing came out, last week, people were you basically could not download it because so many people were trying to download it at 9 o'clock that morning. I actually went to bed, right? Because I thought it'd be fine. I'm not going to wait till midnight and download it and listen to it then. I'll wait till the morning when everyone has downloaded it who is desperate, and therefore I can listen to it at my own leisure in the morning. So I get up at about 9:30, look on Twitter, and realize that the time of release was not midnight, but it was 9 o'clock in the morning. So I sat there, I'm like, I've joined the people I tried to avoid in downloading it at 9:30. So
it became the one thing that I want to destroy.
it only took like 20 minutes, but still, it was a bit annoying.
Oh, that's very bad.
Like, it was.
That's what they were like. People who camp outside like game shops or something when there's a new game out.
See, you can't. There's no physical Big Finish because of how they work. Is they released it digital on a set date, which they won't tell you until like a week before, and then.
Yeah.
And then, they did a countdown for these Ninth Doctor things, but sometimes things literally just drop. Like there was a Dalek Universe series with David Tennant, and there was this thing called the Dalek Protocol, which was a prequel with Tom Baker. So I listened to the prequel. I was halfway through listening to the prequel, and then the next day, the Dalek Universe, the next box set came out, and I'm like, but I haven't finished this. But then they send you your physical things at a more leisurely time because they realize you have downloads, so you don't need it shipped to you immediately to listen to it. So you don't get it on release day. It takes about a week or so to come to you, but it is something very exciting to receive. Once you've listened to it, you actually get the CDs that it's based off, which is cool. But that's enough about Big Finish. Have you finished? Is that everything that you wanted to talk about spin-off wise? Because I think I've covered all of mine.
Yeah.
Right,
that's what I've got, yeah.
We've covered a lot of stuff. We've covered cowboy cyborgs. We've covered returning companions, the past and the dark times, I suppose, of Time Lord history, divisions, Doctor spin-offs, all of that kind of stuff. So yes, there's definitely a lot of potential there. And as I mentioned earlier, Russell T Davies did say that he would love that to happen, but there are limitations behind it. And I think that if you got a really good writer, like someone strong who understood the show, they would do an excellent job at writing adventures. Simply as that. And I think that people would be happy to get it. It wouldn't even need to be particularly complex. Like it wouldn't need to be the most well-written thing ever made. It wouldn't need to be, Oscar, BAFTA. What is the television awards called? Is it? I thought that's
BAFTA. Yeah.
Is that? I thought that's film.
Or is that just soap?
That's not a soap. Is it NTA?
Films.
National Television Awards. It must be that.
Yeah.
NTA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it wouldn't even need to be. Is BAFTA both? BAFTA might be a bit of both. Film and television awards.
I think BAFTA is both. Yeah.
Yeah, film and
television. Like Grammys. I know that.
British Association of Film and Television Awards. That would make sense.
Television. Yeah.
Yeah, but it wouldn't even need to be that complicated. It wouldn't even need to be BAFTA or sort of that kind of level for people to really enjoy it. Like I quite liked Elements of Class. I'm not ashamed to admit. But at the same time, I understand its faults. But if you got really someone within there that was given a lot of money and understood what they were doing, they could rate some pretty amazing shows. Torchwood has always been on the cards of coming back, and there was a theory a little while ago about it coming back, but I think it's been squished now.
Shit.
But so right, I better end this thing. So thank you very much for listening. If you are interested, the links to my own channel, my Twitter, my TikTok, and something else down your Instagram are down in the description below. Down there you have updates of things that I work on currently and new videos when they come out, whenever they may be. Ashton, you don't have any links, do you? You don't want me to link anything.
No.
Excellent. That's
No,
made my
no.
job easier.
People won't find anything interesting out about me.
Of
I'm a
course,
man.
of course, you can download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, which are as following. Do you want to help me do this? I don't know if you remember this from last time we did it because it was a year ago, but me and Will and whoever I'm with have this thing about how we have to try and name as many platforms that the podcast is on very quickly without bothering to learn them.
Oh,
So do you,
what?
I'll allow you to go because I think I've got most of them down at this point where I've done it enough times that I kind of understand where things are going, but I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, one I could probably think of was probably Spotify.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, Google Podcasts, Google Chaser, Google Podchaser, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Am I missing any? I'm not sure, but you don't need for me to tell you about them because they're all in the link in the description. The link tree thing. There you go. That could have been smoother. They're on the link tree that is linked in the description. There you can access them, including a new highlight podcast channel where if you're too if you're too lazy to if you're too busy to listen to a full 2 hour or an hour and a half podcast, then you can find highlights on that channel. I also plan to at some point work on an actual trailer for that for that thing, and there's a slight rebrand on the way if it hasn't already came, which will just change things up slightly. But on that channel, you can get the podcast in bits that are interesting to listen to, such as an interesting question gets asked, etc. But that's there. Is there anything else I need to mention? Because like last time I forgot to mention the YouTube. Is there anything?
I don't know. Is there?
It'd be amazing if you did know. Yeah, that's it. So, so thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.